Hi, I'm Jen Ailey, and I'm delighted to be here today to show you a workshop on how to create and optimize your website. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, so how to create and optimize an aligned, clear, and effective website, not just a website. So yeah, there's so many ways to do this. And I find that people oftentimes start creating a website for their business without really stepping back and thinking about what they want it to do, what's important, what's aligned with for their brand and their business, and creating the long-term vision for it as well. So that's what you have the chance to do today in this workshop, is to create that for yourself. A bit about me before we get started, if you're unfamiliar with me and my work. So I started out as an English teacher years ago. I became a Martha Beck certified life coach in 2003. I've had about 8 businesses in the last 20 or so years. I have failed miserably at business and filed bankruptcy. I have learned a lot the hard way and gained a lot of wisdom from experience and from mentors. And I've also tripled my income in just 2 or 3 years. And I had a jewelry business for 9 years that I sold in 2020. I became a Best Year Yet coach in 2017. And I did a TED Talk about business and as a creative process, basically. And delighted that was featured on TED.com. And as a business and prosperity coach, I work virtually as an Asheville-based business. And my definition of prosperity includes freedom, nature, art, and travel. So let's start with your why. Why do your business? Why do you have the vision to have a business? And then, you have that probably established at this point in your business. So what do you want your website to do for your vision, for your business? So go ahead and actually answer these questions now. You can just jot it down on a piece of paper or type into your phone in your notes app or something, of just getting clear on what do you want your website to do for your business. Through your website, what do you want to give to potential customers and or customers? And you can think about those as 2 different audiences. So what do you want your website to do for your current customers? If you send them there to get a resource or something, like what do you want it to do for them? And what do you want it to do for potential customers who haven't bought your product or services yet? And this is just a brainstorm. You don't have to get all the answers. We're going to ask a lot of questions during this. You're going to get them all answered during this workshop. And this is a big question. How does your website fit into your overall business plan and marketing strategy? So overall for your business, what is the role of your website for your business? And then think about both short-term goals and long-term goals for your site. Sometimes what people also do, in my experience, when they're getting started with a website, is they'll have the long-term vision in their minds and they want to get all the way there. But when you're starting out, unless you have a large budget to have somebody else do everything for you and to build it out, then you really have to think about like what's the next thing, what's the progress you can make and moving toward that. And then think about long term, you know, to honor that long term goal and vision for your business and for your website, but to really step into, okay, what can I do now too? So holding both of those as you're planning your website. Okay. So here are some possible purposes of your website. And you can add these to your list if anything pops out to you. So one is lead generation. So attracting new customers or clients online. Sharing information about your business or the process of your work. To specifically sell online products or services. Your website can also be there to give you credibility, to help people understand who you are, the work you do, and where you're coming from and your background. It can be a platform for your own, like you as a brand, or the credibility of your product or service as a brand. To establish your brand is the next one there. Yep. To share your portfolio, depending on the kind of business you have. And as a platform for content or blogging. So those are just a few. I'm sure there's many others. So if others come to your mind now too for your business, go ahead and write those down. So before we dive into more about your website and what it looks like to create that, I'm going to step back for a second and talk about the back end, because a lot of times people are confused about what you need to have a website. So this is the best analogy I've ever heard. My virtual assistant told me this and I love it. So your domain, so your .com or whatever you're doing, your address is your address. So we're going to use an analogy here of like a home. So your domain is your address. So mine is jenaleycoaching.com. So like, what is yours? Like, what is your domain? And you may have more than one. I actually have another one that's called Money Coach for Creatives. And then my website is, sent there. That's sent to my website, redirected. So your domain is your address, like your mailbox. You buy it and it renews annually typically, and sometimes you can get it for more than 1 year if you want to lock it in. Your hosting is like the land where your site lives. The hosting is like the land where your site lives. So it's usually paid annually as well, and sometimes it includes hosting one domain. The hosting does. So your domain is your address, hosting is the land, and your website is your house. You can decorate it or you can build a new house. So you get, the hosting is there and you can put a different domain or on there if you wanted to, right? And put a different website on there if you want to. So the hosting is the land, your domain is your address, and the website is like your house. You can take your house down, put up another house if you wanted to. You can take your website down, change your address too in this case, and put up a new website if you wanted to. So I hope that helps you understand those pieces, because a lot of times people get really confused by those. So then the biggest question to think about is if you want to do your website yourself or hire it out. And sometimes you might do a mix of those. So it depends on how complicated you want your website to be and how much control you want to have over it, how much your budget is, and how much you know about, and how comfortable you are with technology as well. So at the beginning, I would keep it simple. If you don't have a budget, keep it simple. If you do have a large budget, want to hire it out, then go for it. If you can get a domain with your keywords in it, that's awesome. If not, don't worry, because you can just tell them your address or send people there. Starting small is better than doing nothing. So letting go of perfectionism. I had a client who spent years building her website or working on it for months and months, and then finally just put it out there. And then from there it evolves. I had another client who whipped up an amazing website in 3 weeks. So, meeting yourself where you are and starting small and making progress, focusing on the progress piece. Remember that your website is a living thing. This is especially true for those of us who are Gen X and older. It's not like you're printing a bunch of brochures or like booklets or something that you have to get right and perfect the first time. You do want it to be good enough to represent your brand, but it doesn't have to be everything all at once. So remember that it's a living thing and that you're in a creative process with it, and you will constantly be evolving it and editing it, especially if you do it yourself and you have that kind of control. And even if you don't, you're going to be hiring out somebody ongoingly to update, edit, change things. So that's another consideration when you're considering if you want to do it yourself or hire it out. And so one thing you could do too is hire out the creation of it and then have them show you how to edit it, depending on what platform you're using to put it on. So you'll continue to grow and evolve and tweak it as long as you have it, pretty much. Okay, so before you create or update your website, I would do this. Find 3 websites that you love. And for each of those websites, and think about somebody in your field or in a similar field where the website's relevant to yours. And think about, just notice what you like. And a website might come to your mind right now that you like. So think about what you like about it. So if you're creating it for yourself or for somebody else, what you can do is, especially if it's for somebody else, I'll just talk about it as if you're creating this for somebody else. What you want to do is look at those pages, put down the website, and then write down what you like and what you don't like. And if you wanted to create a voiceover for your designer, you could do that. So you could just go and create a loom, and just like go through the website and record the video and have your voice over it where you're talking about what you like and what you don't like about the site. And then if there's something you don't like from that site, find a site where you do like that aspect. So for example, navigation. Say you don't like the way where the navigation is or how it works, then you can go find another site and say, oh, I want it to be like this. I want it to be at the top across it, or you just want to pull down menu. And you're also going to be considering, the desktop site versus the phone site as well. And then, you could also create a mock-up of your site on paper or digitally if you're savvy like that, to really just give yourself a sense of what it looks like. What kind of template, what kind of vibe, the colors, all of that. And again, you're thinking about the short-term progress and long-term capacity for your website. So right now, just go ahead and if you think of websites off the top of your head, write those down, and that you like, or that you even just want to look at from the perspective of creating a website or modeling it, and just come back to those, because that's a really great thing, is just modeling what's already out there, what's working. And you're not copying it because it's going to be yours. It's going to be your content and your information, your products and services. So just letting yourself get inspiration from other sites that inspire you. Okay, so here are some website platform options that may be supportive for you. So I've had quite a few clients use Wix, GoDaddy, Squarespace, HubSpot, Shopify, Weebly, WordPress. I use WordPress personally in my business, and I have for many, many, many years. So I'm used to it, and I don't recommend it if you're not techie and you don't need a complicated website. I don't recommend it for that. If you are techie or you have a really big need for your website, then I would go with something like that. But the other ones, so some of the features that are important could be how DIY user friendly is it? If you want to do it yourself, how easy is it to use? The cost could be a factor. Professionalism, how does it look? Does it look like a legit website? Are you selling products? Do you need a cart for your site? How, and then how many options do you need for growth and performance? Like, what does that look like exactly? Um, so only you can know all these things and decide them. But so here are some options. And what you can do too is look up websites that compare these to see what, and look at your needs in the chart of like things that are compared and figure out, okay, and even talk to other entrepreneurs, like, what are you using? What is it like for you? How's it going? So there are some options. And, and think about, like, again, long-term versus short-term. You can always change your platform later if you wanted to, if it's easy. Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to look at the alignment of your website with your brand, and really looking at, does your website and how can your website reflect who you are and your values? And does your site express those? Is it clearly aligned and relevant to your brand? And, and this is something that's true. So people think of brand, they think of color, but it's also true as far as navigation and overall design, because if you have a clean, elegant vibe for your business, you don't want like tons of color or animation or something in your website. You want it to also be similar to that. So what comes to your mind when I talk about brand values? So what do you know about your brand already? And write those down. And another word for that is, what is the vibe? So what values are is your business embodying? And what do you want to come through in your website? Okay. And then, so that's what you're putting out and what you're expressing through your website, and just, checking in with yourself, and expressing that to your designer if you're working with somebody. That's important that those come through. And then, who is your client? So thinking about your target market from this moment, what you know about them, and if you're not clear on that, think about your ideal customer, a customer that you absolutely love and you want more of those customers. And then think about what they would resonate with and feel connected to. And how tech savvy are they? Are they 77 or are they 19? So not the age is the only indicator of tech savviness at all, but just really considering who is your market and what do they need for your website? Like, what do they need to be able to optimize the use of your website for themselves? So what do you know about, the question there is, what do you know about your client and what do they need as far as your website goes? Also consider, give another second for that one. It's an important question. Also consider if you're targeting a local, regional, national, or global market. So that's also a question of, like, who are you targeting? Not just who, but where are they? And how is that relevant to your site? Is there anything that you need to consider as far as your specific market goes? And does it need to speak to the locality of it, to the region? Yeah, for example. Or the internationality of it, you know, that you can receive your services from anywhere in the world, or we ship internationally. So considering that communication piece, are you talking to a local market, regional, national, or global? Another, so then vibe consistency. So this is about the colors, the fonts, the language, how what kind of voice you use, and the style. So those are all things, again, like I said at the beginning, like, you know, if you want to have an elegant brand, then your website needs to represent that. If you want to have a fun and playful brand, then what does that look like? You know, what do the photographs look like? What kind of voice are you using to communicate? Yeah, so all those things are big considerations. And then thinking about build trust, tell story. If you're building trust in your website, you're telling a story, your brand story of like who you are, why you do what you do, how it's unique, and why it's important. And you can also, you know, include in that showing your product or process. So again, speaking about your ideal client or customer, what is their experience going to be like? So thinking about your navigation categories. And this is sometimes something that's hard to see on your own. So it's really good to get feedback from other people on this. So what are your categories for navigation? So, you know, typical is a home page, an about page, contact, services or products, or shop or store, events, blog, resources. Like there's like so many categories you can have there. And sometimes this is hard to decide. This is another time when it's really helpful to look at other sites, and something may be like, oh, that's what I want. You know, you might see what you want as far as navigation goes by looking at other sites that are similar to yours and seeing what they're doing. And then as far as building out your site, you know, the short-term versus long-term, what is the most important thing to start with? If you have to start small with your website, what's the most important thing? Is it a homepage and a contact page? You know, is it just a sales, like you're selling stuff on there? Is it just like selling stuff on your site? And then what will you add later? So really, as you're in this process, thinking about what you'll prioritize, what's important now, and then what does it look like in the long term? And maybe, you know, putting that down somewhere, putting it on a bulletin board or something in your office to say, okay, this is the long-term vision for the website. Once we get this going, then we can add this or do this or upgrade this, you know. Do you want a blog? Is a blog important to you? Is it, you know, you can talk about, if you have products, you can talk about the products. You can use keyword optimization there to get more traffic to your site for sales. If you're doing services, you can build trust with your customers, your clients, and focus on building expertise through your blog. You can also get traffic to your website from your blog as well. And then at the bottom of your page is something that people often overlook. And so if you think about the bottom of a website, a lot of times the bottom of the website has some navigation at the bottom. So you have, like, if you don't know where to go, you can go to the bottom and see where you can click or contact or whatever. So you want to make sure you have a privacy policy. This is especially true for, I think it's the EU that requires that. So I'm not an expert on that, but make sure that if you have a designer, you're talking to them about it and getting that updated. And if you don't have a designer, you're doing it on your own, make sure you research that to understand what your privacy policy needs to be. Make sure you're saying your site is copyrighted. And you can put the year on there. You can just put this year, or you can put the year from when it began to now. You can put your mission statement, like just making sure that people know what it is that you're doing as a statement on the bottom of your site. So no matter what page they're on, they're going to see, like, this is what this person's about right here. Boom. And you can also put some navigation links on the bottom so that if people get lost, they can always find the navigation from there. So you want to have a call to you want people to understand and know what it is they're supposed to do on your site besides just look at it and read it. So what do you want the user to do when they go to your site? Do you want them to buy something? Do you want them to get their email address? Do you want them to schedule with you? Do you want them to sign up for an event? Or do you want them to call you? That's still valid. Calling, people still do that. So what do you want the user to do? So think about this, like, what do you want them to do? And it may be more than one thing. You may have like, okay, they can either give me their email or schedule with me, or they can buy something or sign up to get the coupon to buy something, you know? So what do you want the user to do? So just for a second, consider that. Like, what would you want them to do? What do you want them to do on your site? And you can think about, okay, what do I really want them to do? And if they don't do that, they're not ready for that yet, what would I want them to do instead? So this is also speaking to like warm versus hot leads, because if somebody's a hot lead and they're like, say they came from a referral and they know they want your service, then they're going to come there and sign up for a call. If they just found you some way and they're not that hot of a lead, they're maybe a warm or cold lead, they might read your blog or something, or look at your site, or peruse your products or something, and they might give you their email to sign up for a coupon so they can come back later once they have, and then you have their email address. Speaking of, consider creating an opt-in, or it's also called a lead generation tool or a free gift. So it's like an appetizer to give a taste of your work. So it needs to be something that's irresistible to your exact target market. So it's something that speaks to their problem or the solution they want. So it could be an audio gift, a video that's exclusive to this, not just on YouTube free anyway, a workbook, a resource of some kind, a coupon for a product or service, a kit, a manifesto related to your work and your values and your target market. I already said workbook, had that twice, sorry. So yeah, so this is something to consider. This is something that you may not do at the very beginning if you're starting small, but it's something that if you've already had a website for a while and you want to update it and you want to go to the next level and you don't have an opt-in of some kind, it's a really good thing to include. And I recommend including it when you're ready to also have follow-up emails for them so that they're in your sort of marketing funnel and you can connect with them and move them toward understanding your brand and your product or services and eventually buying. So it's turning those cooler, warm leads into warmer leads by connecting with them and giving them an experience of your work before they actually purchase it. And then if you have a free consult or a short conversation with people and you give them that, make sure you give it a name that's really appealing. Make sure you pump it up so where it's like, it's not just consultation. It's something that they want, like a breakthrough session or I do a grow your business consultation. So it's like, what is it that you are giving them that you want to move them toward, that they want to receive? And how can you give it a name that gives them a sense of the outcome they're going to receive from that experience? And, this may be something that you develop over time, any of this, because, depending on where your business is, it may be that you have something sitting around that you're like, oh, I could use that thing. People love that thing. I could use that because it really speaks to my brand, my client's problems, the solution I offer, and it gives me credit. It both shows the credibility and vulnerability of me as a service provider, for example. And, I even had, this is something you can use in so many ways too. You can do a lot with this. You can, if you're on a podcast or a guest somewhere or have an event, you can always offer this to people, offer this gift to people. I had somebody on Instagram that I followed at one point who does calligraphy classes. And as soon as I followed her, she sent me a message on Instagram offering a coupon for her Etsy store, and with really good follow-up. So it's like, this connects your website to your marketing funnel, to your email list, to your clients, and to the, as a product that is a good appetizer for cool, warm, and hot leads. And then one more thing about this, make sure that your website is leading people to the thing you want to do. So if you have a clear offer on your website, you want people to know it. It can be a pop-up, depending on how you feel about those, target market. It can be a box on your website. It can be something that is just like in the text in different places. So that's something you can also look at other websites to see what they're doing for this, to see which one resonates for you most and feels most aligned for your brand and for your target market, which one makes the most sense for you. Okay. When you upload images for your website, there's a few things you want to know. One is if you are wanting to be consistent with the colors from your website, from your photographs from your website and your fonts and stuff like that, you can use the hex key finder. So imagecolorpicker.com is something. So if you look this image, for example, on the screen now, those colors below it are the codes, and then the bottom of the hex key numbers for those colors. This is a really cool design thing if you're doing it yourself, to know that you can just pull colors out of photographs and get that exact color to do something else with. And you can create something in Canva that's similar, whatever works for you. So that's one piece. Another piece is to compress all of your images before they go on your website to make sure that they load quickly. Because if they're too big, it'll take a while for your website to load. It'll be like the 90s and it won't be loading quickly. So you want to make sure your website is all your images are compressed so that they load quickly. My favorite app for that is free. It's called IMG2Go. It's right there. image2go.com. And it's a browser plugin. I use what do I use? I use Firefox I use Firefox on my website, on my computer. And it's just like a plugin. So I just click on the plugin in the upper right hand corner, and then I can do almost anything to an image that way. That's really almost faster than going into iPhoto for myself. So I can compress an image, I can convert an image to another different kind of file, I can crop it. So it really is a really easy tool to add to your repertoire if you don't have it yet, so that you can optimize images on your site. It's also helpful in your email, just FYI. I mean, for your email list. And then the last piece here for the images is making sure that all of your images have an alt text. So alt text means alternative text. And it's just like if somebody is vision impaired, it means that they will see that text or be able to read that text. Or computer read it to them. So they'll know what that image was, right? And the other thing is that the different search engines give you more credibility the more that your site has the alt text for images. So basically it's just an attribute used to specify alternative text that can be displayed in place of an element that cannot be rendered. Okay, so if it can't pull the image up or the person is visually impaired, it will tell them what it is. And it validates your site with search engines. So I know these two things are a pain in the rear to do, compression and alt text, but they are worth it. And if you do it from the beginning, you just get used to it. It was really fast. And it really helps give your site credibility and optimize it. There's two pieces that are simple to do from the beginning, because when you do it later, you don't know which ones are or not, and it gets more complicated or stressful. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little tutorial on how to do search engine optimization basics. So basically, before I go to the Google page, The basics are you want to choose keywords that are both relevant to what you offer and what your ideal target market would use to look for what you offer. Like, what would they actually search for to look for you? It's a priority to choose your primary keywords and then other keywords that are relevant to the content for your site. So, and then, yeah, and I'll show you the rest. Okay, so let me stop the sharing here and go into all right, I'll start doing a new screen share. Hang on a second. Sorry about this. I had it pulled up, but it's just 1 second. Okay. Okay, here we go. Thanks for your patience. Okay, so basically you just look up Google Keyword Planner, and then you ideally log in if you have a Google account of any kind. And then you want to discover new keywords. So this is a tool that's made for doing Google Ads, but it's also used outside of that to understand what keywords are most optimal for your website or for your blog or whatever. Okay, so then I'm going to think about a business. Okay, I recently helped a client do this, and it was also creating her Google page, and she's a minister. So she's a minister for this area of Asheville. So we searched something like Asheville. She mostly does weddings, so she wanted to optimize that. Wedding efficient. So we just want to pick something to start with, right? So you start with that and you see what it gives you. So as you can see here, it gives us Asheville wedding efficient. So here's the monthly searches. So this one has 100 to 1,000 monthly searches, but the competition is still low. So that's actually a good choice for keywords there, right? Okay. So all these are low competition actually. So Asheville wedding efficient, Asheville NC efficient, Asheville elopement efficient, okay? And then it's giving us, so these are all keywords that we could use. So you could put these into you can choose a main one for your website. And then you could also have different keywords that you're using in your blog or your products, if you have products, to figure out what works for you. And then it's giving us a lot of different options up here that are similar keywords. And it even gives us different geographical options there, so you can choose these, and then you can actually go to this little icon over here, and then download the search so you can track this. You can also save it here with saved keywords. So I'm going to go back and do another one that's for a product. So let's see here. Okay, so that one is so small that there are not enough searches to make it worthwhile of doing that, right? Okay, so now I know that. Okay, that's not it. The same client who did the ministry thing, she actually had a Harley website for people who wanted to get married on their Harleys or with Harleys. I'm not sure what it was exactly, but that wasn't really searched enough to make it worth optimizing website for it. So it was good to know that. So she wouldn't put a lot of energy into that and get nothing back from it. Okay. So yeah, so this gives you a sense of how this works. So the main thing is that you want to have the low keyword search, and you want to have something that's super relevant to what you're offering. Let's do something for a brick and mortar space. So let's say the store sells tea and spices. It's still too small. All right, let's do something bigger. Let's say it's a brewery. You have a brewery. So there's a high competition here, I bet, because there's a lot of those around here. Let's say brewery tour Asheville. So this is an event. Okay, great. So now we see that there are, so here there's 1,000 to 10,000 searches a month, and that's a medium competition. So it's not optimal. Asheville brewery map, if you included a map on your website, that could be a good search term thing for people. The search is still low for that, so that's great. Here, beer tour. So you see that there's certain things that are just nuanced different. So there's still quite a few searches for some of these, but the low competition is going to give you more of a chance of being seen and being clicked on for that thing, right? So that's kind of a big deal. All right. So then you could take this data and download it, and then you could actually pick the keywords that are relevant to your business that you can actually create from, and create blogs with those specific exact keywords in your blogs. And blogging is a whole nother workshop, but your website can also have pages about these things. You can post blogs for events that you want to have in the future that you've already had. And so there's all kinds of ways to take these keywords and to use them for SEO for your website, because people are looking for these things. And if you have the exact words people are searching for and it's low competition, the likelihood of you being seen is higher. This is also true as you're creating your Google page, by the way. So I recommend doing some more research with your with keywords before you even create your Google page as well, especially if you're a local brick and mortar kind of business. Okay. All right, I'm going to share screen again and go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. All right, so I hope that's helpful. Some other techie stuff that's really important to be aware of. One piece is backing up your website, making sure that your website is backed up all the time, especially as you make changes. So that's a big deal, and that's something you could get support with if you needed to. Optimizing your site on an ongoing basis, and this can get really, really techie. But the bottom line is that you want to see, so there's a website called SEM Rush, and it checks your overall site health. They have a free version of it, so you can do that, and it checks your site performance errors. And so if you wanted to create your own site and get it going, and then do the SEM Rush, and you can hire somebody else to optimize the backend stuff that's more techie, you can also do that. And then as you're creating your site, I know this sounds like common sense, but it's easy to forget these things once you're doing all the details. Make sure to double check all your links and the mobile friendliness of your links. And if you can get somebody to check both PC and Mac stuff, that's even better, and different browsers. So again, testing it to get feedback. So sending your site to people who don't know your work and people who do. So sending it to people who are clueless about your work, and so they're brand new to your site, and people who do know your work, and asking them for feedback as well. So here are some questions you can include in what you want them to answer, or you can just ask them one of these and get their feedback. Is it clear who the site is for? Is it clear what you want the user to do? And even where is it clear and where is it not clear? Whose site is it and what are they offering? So really basic generic stuff to make sure you're dialed in with all this. Is the navigation clear and easy to use? what words would they use to describe the vibe of the site, right? So you're asking there, do your brand values come through? What do they want more of? What do they want less of? What's missing for them? Was there anything that didn't work? And does the mobile app work as well as the desktop version? I already said that. And what else? And so this process can also be used as a marketing strategy. So you can send this out to former clients, current clients. You can put it on social media and say, hey, I'm looking for feedback. Please answer these 3 questions, to get this coupon, or ask this, you can just use it as incentive, So using it as a marketing strategy to get your people to see your site and to also get feedback. It's a win-win, especially if you're going to give them a reward of some kind, which is optional, of course. Depending on your business, you can or can't do that, I know, but so these are some questions to consider as you are creating your website and evolving it too. And I've created websites since 2000 or since 1999 probably. I've had so many I can't even remember. And it's a lot easier now than it used to be, obviously, but it's still a simple thing. Like, you want people to go there, to look at it, to see get what they need, and to do the thing. Make sure you set up Google Analytics. It generates custom reports and can track and visualize data, so it can give you user numbers, bounce rates, how long people are on your site, all kinds of things. So this is really good to have this connected so that you can see what's happening on your website and where people are coming from too. So remember that creating your website is an ongoing creative process, and let yourself start from where you are, and don't wait till it's perfect and filled out ideally before you publish it and get it out there. You get to evolve it, grow it, refine it, and optimize it as your business evolves and allows, as you get clear on what your business is offering, what your website is doing. And then I recommend doing at least an annual big review of your site to look at what's working, what's not, and to do that SEM rush kind of thing or something similar, where you're really seeing what your site is doing, so you can know where to go from there. And then if you can afford to get professional support with someone who's more tech savvy and marketing savvy than you, then I would totally do that, because it's really good to have expert advice and opinions, especially with this kind of thing, because it's always evolving and growing, and you want to make sure that you're evolving and growing with it. Okay, an exercise before you go. So hopefully you clarified some of these things, and just to review, what is the primary purpose of your website? I hope you know this now. I hope you can say this: get new clients, sell stuff, and to inform people about my store information or the menu for my, whatever it is. Okay, there you have that. And then what do you most need support with? So what is the area that you could really use support with that you would love to have support with? What is that area? Is it the back end? Is it techie? Is it SEO? Is it integrating the lead generation tool into your website with your email? Is it design? What is that one thing that you would love to have support with? And then where could you find support? Do you know somebody already? Do you know somebody who would know somebody? And even if you don't have the budget for it right now, like, what would you can go ahead and get a quote so you know what it's going to cost, so you can move your intention in that direction. What structure, and you get multiple quotes actually too. What structure can you create to focus on your website often? So if you're creating a website or evolving a website, can you spend an hour every week at this certain time of the week to focus on your website, to evolve it? What kind of structure do you need to be able to focus on your website? And then what are the top 3 next steps for you regarding your website? So from all of this, what are the top 3 next steps for you to evolve and to create or evolve your website, depending on where you are? Write those down. And then when you have those down, make sure you put them in your calendar so that you are going to actually do, or whatever works for you with your to-do list or something, so that you're prioritizing these things for your website or delegating it. All right. Congratulations. I hope this webinar was really helpful for you, and that you have some clear steps, and that you're thinking about your site on a deeper level and a more long-term level, and not so perfectionistic with it if that's an issue for you. And I wish you all the luck with your website, and thanks for watching.